Hey friends, welcome to Strategies with Soul. I'm your host, Heidi Mitro. And today, oh man, you're going to get a peek behind the curtain. So you all know I'm a coach. You all know that I am on fire for hybrids. Those are the people that are divinely human. And you're trying to figure out how to balance being human and divine. Part of my humanity is being a business person, and that means surrounding myself with incredible coaches. And I've got one of my coaches here today. So welcome, Laura Wright. I'm so happy you are here. Please give us a little intro of what your genius is. And then I have a million questions for you. So
let's dive in. So it's funny. I've been asked this question a lot, but I'm Laura Wright. And I've been saying this lately and it's not always landing. So I want to just bring forward the idea that you can evolve and adapt who you are. But at my core, I am all about sales. I'm about setting transformational sales goals that change who you are, how you show up. And I firmly believe that when smart, amazing, heart-centered women who are on big missions have money in our hands, we're the ones that actually change the world. So I call myself classically a sales coach and consultant because I come into women's businesses that are in their six figures and they want to move into seven and multi-seven figures, because I want everyone to have sustainable ways of earning income. But why I actually want it is because of this. I believe that the moment of transformation happens at the sale. It is the moment that you get to start delivering your goods to the world. And I don't mean goods as in goods and services. I mean your gifts. And when that person says yes to purchasing, that's the moment that all the things they desire start to flood to them. So I want to show women how to activate sales from a place of service and love, transformation, and a whole lot of money.
Oh my God. It just gives the whole time you're talking, I just have goosebumps because that'll probably be one of our quotes as I'm doing the marketing for this, of the point of transformation happens at the yes. It happens at the point of sale. And I know for me personally, part of the challenge of being an entrepreneur is actually getting sales calls on your books, because you're so busy doing the marketing. You're so busy doing the outward facing stuff that once you get to a sales call, you're like, oh, that's right. This is why I'm in business. These calls. And what you have been so instrumental in my business is those huge shifts. Baby step shifts blow. They just do. When you finally make the big shifts where it's okay, we're closing 30,000 this month. Okay, we're closing 100,000 in the next 90 days or whatever those first goals were. I was like, who are you? What are we doing? And then it works. You show up differently when you have bigger numbers. The latest gauntlet that Laura laid down was I needed to talk to 1,000 people. I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Where am I going to find 1,000 people? And you'd be shocked at what happens then and the actions that you end up taking, because 1,000 people is different than 10. I would have tripped my way to 10. But who you become with transformational goals is different. When did that start for you? When did you recognize that truth?
It's funny. It's almost always been around me. And I don't think I noticed it until I was having to do a couple different interviews where I started explaining it. But there's a thing that I've taught for years called hit it till you hit it. And the idea is that setting a goal so large that you maybe can't hit it immediately, but it causes you to transform and to change. I know that one of the things I taught a little thing about, I used to do Taekwondo when I was little.
That makes me exceedingly happy.
I know.
I bet you were so cute in your gi, oh.
But I know one of the things that I really got that clicked in my brain, and this was again, me being 10, 12 years old, is you don't actually punch or kick a board. Yeah. You punch or kick past the board in order to break it. And while that's a very aggressive way to explain it, what I do is I use sales goals to excite me, to ignite me, to help me reach. And you were just mentioning it with the energy you would put into reaching out to 10 people, you could kind of just do it. You're like, nah. Yeah. But the energy to start to become someone different, to reach out to 1,000 people, you have to start thinking different thoughts, which is how you get different outcomes. And again, what I love about calling it a sales goal is I never have to worry about if my bills are paid, because what I know is if I am in need of whatever number I need, if I go higher than that, the chances of me getting it are almost always a yes. But when you just go for what you need, it actually doesn't get you jazzed. It's kind of like when someone shows up in my inbox and they like, we're talking about goals and what they want to create. And whenever they're like, and I need to pay off all this debt, I'm like, ooh, we have to find a bigger reason. When you aren't being able to like be energized by your goals, if you're not curious about how to get there, I think some of my favorite things I've done in my business, I had no idea how I was going to do them. And by looking backwards, if I had told you, like I wrote a book, and if I had told you how I actually wrote the book from the front, like if I'm like, here's what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it, I would have said, I don't know what you're talking about. But because I chose something that I didn't know how to do, I quick started it. I figured out a different path to get to it than most people do. And I had it done in like less than 5 months.
Oh my God, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think that what I have learned from you, and I have a love-hate relationship. I think that's pretty common with coaching clients where you're like, I hate you. Yeah, I love you. Why did you say that out loud? Why is that recorded for me to rewatch?
Yes.
And I know my clients have that with me. You know who you are and you know you feel the same way. But what I have learned from you really is when you're goaling, and that is a phrase I've learned from you, when you're goaling past what you need towards that excitement. Like I literally on my board over here, I have my October sacred revenue goal. I've got my circle with all the star shine coming off of it. I've got my thermometer. Over here on my board, I have all of my outreach goals. You've given me a system. And what I have learned is sales for women is often a dirty word. And I have had to come to terms with what sales is for me. You have a phrase about sales. Can you tell us what it is and explain why you feel that way?
So I believe that sales is love.
Yes.
Because again, it's the moment of sale is the moment of transformation. It is a loving and kind and good thing, because it's also not something you do to somebody. Like sales. So here's the thing that a reason why I know women struggle so much with sales. Number one, go and Google the leaders in sales and you will see all the, and I know you use PMS, but you use it in a really great way. But my business partner and I call it pale, male, and stale.
Yes.
It's the coercion, persuasion, high artificial urgency. Those are the techniques that are taught. But more importantly, what's usually happening is you're not actually taught how to connect and sell. So what I like
or
to do
deliver. I think the deliver is huge.
Yes.
It's and I've done this. You've invested in stuff and it's like the marketing is beautiful. They're saying all the right things, but the delivery blows. Most of the women that I work with, like their programs are amazing and they're afraid to sell it because they don't want to be seen as pushy or bitchy or all of the things they're afraid of. How do you overcome that with women?
I love that. So what we want to help you do, and this is why I use a framework and a formula, not a rigid script, is you need to find it your way to do it. So it feels pushy, sleazy, and slimy, number one, because you don't know what to do. You only know what you think you're supposed to do. So when you learn what to do, it doesn't actually feel yucky. Number two is each of my clients has a different way of doing things. I have some clients, I've one who she has like a 2-hour long guided meditation, visualization, connection. It's a spiritual, long investment sales conversation.
Wow.
I have another client who has a 15-minute let's get to know each other because of the way her marketing does certain things, the way that she connects with people. Neither one of them is right or wrong. The key is it's right for them. So what I want to always show someone is, okay, so if this doesn't feel good, let's figure out why and what to do instead. What usually happens is when sales doesn't feel good, it's just avoided, swept under the rugs. I will say one of my can't stand it. If you go onto any online platform, you can right now probably find someone who's promoting to you how to get all the sales without sales calls. And here's the key.
Oh.
I'm a big fan of leveraging yourself, like utilize tools, help people find you, sell one to many, obviously. But when you are simply only avoiding sales, guess what's going to happen? that beautiful funnel you create is not going to work.
Mhm.
The key is if you can get congruent. I do this a lot. I help a lot of women create sales teams. Like not only like do they get okay with it, but they bring more people in. But if you are trying to hire it out and just have a sales team so you don't have to do it, guess what? Your team's going to get the same it doesn't work results. But when you can heal within yourself what it means to actually sell, when you can see that because think about it for a second. If someone shows up talking to you and they're like, hey, Heidi, I am really struggling with this. And you're like, oh my God, I know how to help her. And Heidi, I really, really want this vision. Like, this is really like, this is important to me and my family and the world. And you're like, I know I can help her. And you just stop there. Like nobody wants to do that. You want to say, I know how to help you. Here's how we can do it. Let's get started. And then what happens is she transforms the world by doing her vision. You transform the world by helping her and helping yourself. These are all positive qualities, but we break it down when we think about the word sales and we stop there.
Yes. And it makes sense on a physiological level that if something makes you uncomfortable, you avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have found with other women entrepreneurs is when they're avoiding it is when they're building all of the crap they don't actually need yet. Yeah. I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to have a funnel. And you haven't served anybody. Mm-hmm. You have all of the pieces, but you don't have anybody to play with.
Yeah. And here's the best part. Why I love sales first. And in fact, my business partner and I, we teach a very counterintuitive way of doing things. We say, sell it, then you market it, and then you brand it. And what we mean by branding is like the make it beautiful. Here's why. When you talk with, let's just pick randomly like 10 people, and you talk with these people, you make an invitation, you find out what their struggles are, you find out what their vision is, you hear the words from them of what they say they're struggling with from them. When you hear what the visions are that they want to create, when you say your offer and you hear how they respond, guess what you just got? Like, this is like why I think everything you need, like, this is why sales to me is like the most important thing is it returns so many more dividends than just money in your bank. It gives you all the phrases. Like I will get on sales calls and people are like, are you psychic? You're like reading my mind. And maybe, yes, that might be also true. But really what's true is I'm listening. I ask a question and you tell me your words and I can coach you through hearing what you're going to hear. Like I really do believe, again, the process of sales should be transformative. And so I'm helping someone get clear on their struggles, understand them, acknowledge them, decide they want to change them. I'm helping someone getting clear on their vision, exciting them, igniting them, lifting them up. And then I give that invitation. And when they say yes, then they win, I win, everyone gets what they need. But here's what people think. They think you have to coerce, persuade, or sell and in all the bad words way. I don't do that. In fact, I don't give an invitation to everyone I talk to if we're not a fit.
Yeah, me either.
No.
Oh my God, don't do it. Don't do it. Save yourself the heartache of 3 months later, everybody's in pain. Or 2 weeks later, the upfront money is not worth it. Like play chicken with God a little bit and be like, no, this isn't a match, and wait for the next right person for real.
I love what you just said there, because what you actually activated is one of the reasons why women tend to hate sales or be so bothered or worried by it, is because it feels like this is a one-time shot.
Yes.
And so what I know, that's not actually true. I know that we have more than, it's like 7.8 billion people on the planet. God. Like I did the math with one of my clients a long time ago, but basically I think there was something like 200 million people in the world that she could possibly work with.
Wow.
200 million. Like, just like looking at what she does and who she serves. And I'm like, in your lifetime, I'm not saying it's impossible for you to help 200 million people, but in your lifetime, that's a lot of work. And I mean that in a really positive way. So relax. When Tina shows up, and Tina, if you're listening, we love you. I just need a name. But when Tina shows up, if she's not a fit, say, I bless you and send you on to your next person. But when Sarah shows up and she is your fit, please, for the love of all things holy, give her an invitation. Let her make the choice and support her through it, because that's actually what sales is. When I say sales is love, What I also really mean is the process of sales is guiding someone to decision. That is a very loving thing to do to someone. When you are in indecision, one of my beloved friends and colleagues likes to call it, you're sitting on the fence and no one wants a fence post. That's not a comfortable position. So it's a very, very loving thing to guide someone from, should we work together? Do I need your service? Is this a fit for me? To a strong yes or a strong no.
Yes. And it really, for me, sales has been transformational in my relationship with myself. It's helped me to develop an offer that I really love. It's helped me to create a program that really lead from within is something that we work together on. My very first call with you, I felt a little weird because it was like a bonus call and I was like really intimidated and I was like, oh God, it's going to be $1 million and all the things. And when I started sharing my vision with you, I don't know if you'd even remember this, but it was pivotal for me. I was in my kitchen and you were like, oh, you want to change the world. And I was like, don't say it out loud.
And I'm going to help you do it.
Totally.
And hold you to it.
Totally. But there was this recognition of, it wasn't a little girl dream for me anymore. It wasn't that like pageant Patty, like I want world peace, although I do. It was, oh, I want to change the world. If at that moment you had been, that's great, see ya, I would have been like, what? That's it? But for you to be able to then go, well, what if we did this? Then at least I'm at choice. When you make the decision for other people, it's manipulation so you're not uncomfortable. So if you get on a call and you're not going to make an invitation, that's about you. Those sales calls are not about you. That's why you go get coached somewhere else. Those are about you. The sales calls about them. But I believe that your business reveals you back to you. I believe that. I think that business is sacred for women, at least the women I work with, and I know the women you work with as well. It's a sacred thing. This is a communion with the divine as much as it is money in the bank. And when it gets revealed back to you, I think that's why we need coaching. So you can have someone go, oh, this is what's happening. And you're like, oh, I'm not crazy. Thank God.
Well, and that's the thing, like where people get stuck is when you don't take that second step and ask, why is this happening? Like, why, like one of my favorite things that clients come to me is they're like, Laura, I just screwed up a sales call. I'm like, you didn't, you can't screw it up, but also what happened and where did you find yourself stuck? Because when we uncover where you got stuck, once we can heal that, you never get stuck again. I mean, one of my favorite things to teach, and it's very funny because I actually teach a process for sales. I always use my hand, it's the arc of the sale. You don't actually need to overcome objections. However, I teach overcoming objections all of the time for one really important reason. That little quiet whisper voice in the background that thinks objections are going to show up, if you can soothe her first and say, if they do, here's what to say. You show up totally different on your conversations and then they're not there. Like I can't really remember the last time I had a true need to overcome an objection on a sales conversation.
I agree with that.
Because I am, number one, I'm clear on my purchase choices. Like if I don't want to give a value exchange for something, I say that as opposed to saying that's too expensive.
Right.
If I am a no to buying, even if I'm face to face with somebody, which I understand can be challenging, I understand how to say, this is not a fit for me. You're delightful, but I don't pretend and hide. I don't say, oh, I need to talk with my spouse, or I don't say, it's too expensive, or I don't have the money for it. I really go to choice. And I encourage everyone to do that for yourself as well as for the people that you're selling to.
Yes. And it matters, I think, when you're talking about overcoming objections, it's usually around, I've got to ask my partner. And when I ask my potential clients, does your partner also have to consult with you? Let's talk about this. Let's break that down. More often than not, they look at me like, well, we have a boat in the garage that I didn't have a say in, or there's like a trip coming up that I didn't have a say. It's very interesting when we start to break down old gender roles around bigger pieces. You don't actually need permission. Do I understand making couple choices? Yes.
Yes.
Do I understand that in my business, that it's my business? Yes, I do. And that is not up for negotiation. If I'm going to go buy a car, I should talk to Mike. If I'm going to invest in a $50,000 program, that's none of his business because that's a business purchase. It's different when you start to like own it. And the other objection you hear, obviously, you know, it's too expensive or all of these things. Coming to terms with the fact that that isn't about you. And more often than not, it's not about money. There's one question that I have learned, and it's through this process, but it's also with other coaching that I've given and received is, can I coach you through that? That is a point of power where it's like, it sounds like that's a thing. Do you mind if you get coaching around that now? And it used to feel kind of sleazy to me, but really it was about highlighting where their blind spot was. And I think that's what most of coaching is like, where's my blind spot? And can you put some candlelight on it so it's cute and accessible? Don't spotlight it just yet.
It's so funny you say that because I actually, whenever I'm helping people like hire and train sales teams, I always say, give me a coach and I can teach her how to sell. I don't like to receive a salesperson because then I have to teach them how not to do what they've been doing. Because again, I really do believe with the process of sales being so transformative, you need to be willing to ask people deeper questions because really the truth is nobody's buying your product or service. What they're actually buying is getting out of their struggle and getting to their vision. You're the bridge. You're the one that's going to help them, guide them, support them in whatever your service is. But what they're really, really buying is, can I get there? Will it happen? Are you the one to guide me? And when you can get to those answers during a sales conversation, it's liberating when you get to a no. Like I have someone right now who, and whenever you're listening to this, this may be accurate and it'll be fun to find out if I actually did work with her. But I had a lovely sales call with somebody. She's wonderful. I think she's doing great things in the world. And there was something that gave me a little tingle at the back of our call that made me say, I'm not 1,000% certain that we're the fit. I feel like we're pretty darn close to it. So if I were an unseasoned salesperson, I would have either blown past that and taken the credit card, or I would have not made an offer. But right now what I'm doing is I'm paying attention to it. I'm actually just lengthening our sales process a little bit. So I can give us, because we just met, I'm giving us a little more time to engage. So I'm asking her another question, seeing how she responds. That's going to dictate and inform how we're going to work together, because here's the truth of the matter. How someone shows up in their sales conversation is how they will be as a client.
Yes, God.
Yes, which is why.
And you have to believe that that is just 100% true.
Every single time, 100% of the time, which is why I have a no rescheduling policy.
Yes.
Like very firm and final. If we are meant to talk and you reach out to reschedule, we will not be talking again. Yes, there are true extenuating circumstances. If we get on a call and you are distracted, if you are driving or doing something else, we're going to complete our call. And I may reschedule, I may not. Again, extenuating circumstances, but I pay attention to how people show up and what they're doing because I'm looking to see, is somebody coachable? Now I get it. If you are selling like web design services, you might not think that this is appropriate. One of my beloved clients is a photographer, and we were coaching through an issue she was having with a client, and it had gotten to like a really heightened experience. And I was like, hey, Tina, not her name, obviously. Let's just walk back. I want to find out a few things. And we went back to the beginning, and she realized that on their very first sales conversation, the woman was like thumbing through her phone and was like doing other things. And she even had to stop in the middle and say, hey, I need you to listen to me right now. And I'm like, that's where it was. She showed you how she was going to show up. And because when the moment of yes happened, it all got wonky and wiggly from there. So be willing to pay attention, be willing to listen to your intuition, to your body, to your gut. It's okay to know that someone is not a fit. You don't have to make the sale. And if you find yourself forcing, it's usually not a fit.
Yes. And for me, then it was about having another resource list so that no matter what, on a next step call, that's what I call them in my business, is like a next step call, you are going to have a next step. And it may be an invitation from me. It actually may be an invitation to go talk to you, right? There are times where it's like this,
We've done that.
That's not what we're doing. Or, you go talk to this, web designer, or you need a Facebook person or whatever it might be. Part of healing the pale, male, and stale business model is being willing to do it differently. For me, it really is about collaboration. I feel excited when I can send someone to you. I have all of the confidence in the world. Like, I don't worry about it. Tamika's another one, right? We both have Tamika. She was on the show this season and like doing her nurture matrix and referring women to her. I don't have any qualms. The standard that I have for working with people is ridiculously high because it's so deep. It's got to have the depth. And so when women get off calls with me, I know they have a next step, and it might not be, it might be go show me how you're going to show up. Right.
Yes.
And then that's a 2-step sales process.
Yes. And it is safe to do this because this is not your only opportunity. I still remember it was so many years ago. I had a client who was inside of a coaching certification program. And one of the things she had to do was she had to complete a certain number of calls and actually make a certain amount of sales. It wasn't the amount of money. It was like how many people would say yes to her. And she started really struggling, which is why she reached out to me in conjunction with this program. And we put together all of these things and we got down to the wire. It was like the Friday night before everything was due. And she reached out to me all panicky because she had like 6 different sales calls on her calendar and like one didn't show and one was a bad fit. She still had to get like one more sale. And she had her last call of the day and it was like 4:00 in the afternoon. She was freaking out because she wasn't hitting her goal. And I said to her, well, like in all the best ways, how dare you quit before you're done? And what I mean by that is I don't mean like, don't like go hustle, make it happen. I meant like, don't quit on your goal. Like you are aligned to this. This is important to you. Relax. I want you to go take a break. And I had her go take a break instead of hustle. Wouldn't you know it? Someone messaged her while she was like, I think she went and like took a shower, took a walk and said, hey, I know we talked a couple of weeks ago. Are you still offering this? And she got on the very easiest, simple call. It was a great aligned person. The money, all the stuff she needed showed up. But the reason why it showed up was because of her energy. Yes. If she had at 4:00 decided it didn't work, it would have tanked her energy. And I promise you, she could have done 1,000 pieces of outreach to people. She could have hustled like crazy and probably wouldn't have gotten that sale. But what she did was she reconnected to her why. And this, ladies, this is what keeps you going when a no shows up, and they show up, they do.
Of course. Yeah.
Not as often though. Yeah. I honestly, I can't remember the last time I had a no, but they do show up. That's what I also teach, is so that you're not talking to people that could potentially be no's.
Right.
But being willing to stay in positive expectation, to understand why your goals are not just on paper goals, but they have purpose connected to them. Like this woman was a super talented, meant to be a coach. There was no reason that she would not become certified in this modality. She was, learning. So there's no reason she wouldn't have gotten that additional sale. Like she was not set up to fail. She just had to find her way to connecting back into her body, into her energy, being willing to stick with it, and zoom in the stuff comes.
And that physiology piece really matters. And it is counterintuitive to take a break. But I am really mindful. And part of that mindfulness was working, like you have the phrase of it's been decided. And I can't tell you how many times when I have said it's been decided, I'm like, no, it hasn't. Like my physiology and it has been decided still don't match. But that recognition of going, what is the I always do this. What is the physiology if it's been decided? And if it hasn't, don't you dare get on an outreach run. Don't you dare go try to make connections. I don't make connections unless I'm in it's been decided energy. And it matters. And as a generator, if I'm not lit up, I'm not doing it.
Yep.
I cannot
I'm a
overcome
manifester.
I can't overcome lack of energy.
Yeah, you can't work yourself through it. So I'm a manifestor, and I know that I don't source my energy like a self-sourcing. I get it from other people. I connect with other people. So I am very mindful about my energy. And I know this is that thing where I teach where you can say all the right things, but if you're like frantic about money, you're not going to get the sale. And I've been in positions where like I do big things in my world. So I'm currently in like a very fun position where, well, this will be fun. I can't wait to again listen when this all comes out. We'll be sitting in our mountain cabin that we're getting, which is a very fancy word for a very fancy place. It's not really a cabin.
Love it.
But
Love it.
the decision has been made. Like the money is sitting there, it's ready and waiting, but it doesn't mean that it's exactly in my bank account right now.
Amen.
And I can feel safe taking actions, going and putting things forward and being able to be at a yes. I'm also very relaxed and calm about utilizing my money because that's the second side of sales. If you are afraid to receive and to utilize your money, it's not going to come to you. When you have the decision has been made, like again, why I love buying houses is the way to like, it's the best expression of like,
hold up. Can that be the quote? The reason that I love buying houses, like, can that be the most badass thing that has happened to
it can definitely be.
Just try that phrase on. The reason I love buying houses, like, just try that on, see what that, okay. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just had
no,
it's
the best. But the reason why I do is because you sign contracts. And the only way that it works, and remember this too, if you're buying any real estate, everyone wants it to work. It might feel like everyone doesn't, but the only way people get paid is if it works. Everyone is working on your behalf. So I think about that when I'm doing all of my sales. Like it lets me be fully committed. I'm 100% committed to buying this house. I've signed contracts. I've sent a deposit. I have told people like I am as committed as you possibly can be, but I'm not like, and if you're listening and not hearing, I like did like the pounce. I'm not like rigid on it. I'm actually very relaxed because my expectation is that with my decision that it is done, I get to then relax and go take the actions I need to take for everything to be fulfilled. If I worry, that energy is what I'm selling with. And right now, what I'm selling with is the energy of a powerful, badass businesswoman who sits in her ski chalet while her son and husband go ski, and maybe she just reads a book. But
yes, I'm in.
That energy is powerfully client attractive. And the key is that's my vision.
Right.
Every client I have has a physical different vision of what it looks like. I always, I'm going down the rambling road, but I think it's important because everyone feels like sales is only about buying things. Like, yes, I do love my sparkly Jimmy Choos. I am a fan of all things shoes. I also like to wear yoga pants. I always remember having a really beloved client years back, and what her service is she helps people become not only in a vegan lifestyle, but living local and small. And by small, what she means is like low waste, like low output. And where she came to me was her business was really struggling because the desire to have less was causing her to have less. And so what we actually had to square, what does less mean? And so for her, what we activated was she literally bought a tiny home before they were a thing. She didn't want to go buy a bunch of shoes. She didn't want to buy a bunch of objects. She literally didn't want to travel around the world because of carbon emissions. But when we activated, I'm like, well, what if you had an extra 100,000 this year to give to the SPCA?
No.
That got her tingly. When we were talking about buying farm shares from some local
I get tingly
farmers,
balls on that.
I know. And as soon as we like shifted that got her excited about making invitations, bringing people in. And the other thing I want to talk about with sales, because I really want women to step into this place of like lit up. My goal is that you leave this conversation with Heidi and I, and you're like, how do I go do this? And you get into motion. Is the things that you desire, money is just a tool to get you there. And I look at money as like bars of commitment. And so if somebody is like, I always give this great example. I think it's a great example. Let's say you were invited to go somewhere and you paid $27 to go there. And it's like, I'm looking outside and it's actually kind of cloudy right now and it's nasty out. And and I'm cozy. I'm having a great, I'm not going. It's $27. I'm not going. If you paid $2,700 to go, I have a sense you'd be doing some things to get there. You might hire an Uber, you might make sure your outfit's nice. But I promise you, if you paid $27,000 to go, I would have flown there, driven there, been there the night before. I'd be staying in the hotel. I'd have my hair done. Like, my commitment level to not missing that would be in direct correlation to what I was paying for it, which is why I ask women to step into high ticket sales. And high ticket's a different number for each person. High ticket can still be $100. High ticket can be $100,000. What I ask is that you set pricing and sell at a level that makes you the most best you and available to your clients and keeps them in their highest level of commitment for receiving. When you hit that number, everyone thrives.
And that is the win-win-win philosophy where, and I teach this inside of Lead From Within, whether they're entrepreneurs or I work with a lot of corporate women. I have it's a cool blend right now of like really unbelievably high achieving entrepreneurs, but also like they're leading teams and they're leading companies. What I know is that when they win first, that is what sparks the win-win-win. When you win, when you're lit up, when you were talking about farm shares and the SPCA, I had tingles. I was like, I mean, I'm wearing slippers right now. Like, I can admire gorgeous shoes. I just don't want them on my feet. When other women want, one thing, I want a hammock and a freaking, hot tub. It was important for me to claim my own thing as my win. Yeah. When it's a win for you, as the salesperson, as the business owner, as the executive, it is automatically a win for them, which is automatically a win for the world. Yep. You cannot do it in reverse because you will end up empty. If it's a win for the world and a win for your client, but it is not a win for you, that is a breeding ground for resentment. It is absolutely a codependent relationship where you're going to be unsatisfied. And who wants to do that?
You are part of the participation in the sales process. Like if you, this is another one, my business partner, Amber, always uses this comment about how like the universe will not deplete you to fill you up. And what she means, and what I speak a lot about, is the same thing of, if you're wondering why something's not selling, there's a high probability that it would deplete you to deliver it. Wow. Or that you're not being rewarded in a way that lets you get that value exchange. You are not included in it. So I always like to look at like diagnosing. Most people are like looking at all the practical pieces, or you need to put more in your offer. More often than not, it's taking stuff out. But if you are not taken care of during your sale, then it's not worth doing.
No. And because women have such a hard time doing that in their regular lives, it can be even harder when it's in your business. And that's why I think your business reveals you back to yourself. Because if you are in a codependent relationship with your business, how awful. If you are in an empowered win-win-win philosophy, that's a different physiology that you show up with. When I get off of my Sacred Circle calls on Sundays inside Lead From Within, I am so amped. I literally feel like I could lift the ceiling off of this roof. I'm like, I am so lit. The women are so lit, and they take that into their worlds and they take up more space. And when you are taking up more space, it's not taking the space away from anyone else. You're finally just showing up in your own space. But it feels weird physiologically. But in your business, you have to take up more space.
Absolutely. I love what you're saying. And this is, Heidi, one of my favorite things about working with you is how frequently we teach and talk about the same thing. Our lens and direction. You go from leadership and leading from within, and I'm going from sales. The same thing. Being able to like hold proper boundaries. One of the biggest things that I think is there's this concept of taking that shows up with sales. Like you take someone's credit card, you're taking from them. And I actually don't believe that that's true. My philosophy and belief around the way that money exists is money is created. It's not a pie. It's not like everyone gets a smaller slice. It is literally like money is energy. It really, in all the best ways, doesn't
Hi,
Calm
buddy.
down, puppies. The puppies are, if you hear this, the puppies are going.
Yeah.
Money really doesn't exist. Like, it's not a thing that you like hold. It's not something like that. It is energy. And so when you have the ability to
Yes.
create energy, you can create more of it. You're not taking from anyone. And if you ever need to see what that looks like, is watch your own checkbook. And it's a virtual checkbook for everyone at this point in the game, but watch it and see how the money comes to you and what you do with it. It will show you where your priorities are really quick. Like if you go into my husband and I, our bank account, you will see how much we love Whole Foods. You will see how much food we eat. You will see that we buy a lot of clothing because we also have a munchkin that goes through a lot of clothing. But if you can see what is important to you through your money, then you can also see what you want to change. So if I find that I'm not having a life experience that I want, I'll go look at where are my resources going? What am I making commitments to? We had a funny moment inside our business where I was talking with somebody and she's like, I really want to do this, but not for a couple months. And I was like, that's interesting. And she had a good reason. And then we had another person show up with that. And I'm like, what's going on? So the first thing that I did was I realized my business partner and I were making, we had a contract with somebody that we were hiring. And on purpose, we're not doing it until November, at the end of November, which is we're probably doing it right now as you're watching or listening to this. But it was all three of us got together and consciously chose the time. But I realized that the contract was just sitting I didn't have urgency to sign because we were doing it purposely later. I promise you, I went in and signed that thing as soon as I realized, because I wanted to align commitments. And now we're having people who are making purchases with aligned commitments the same way.
Yes. And that again is the reflection. Whatever is showing up in your programs, whatever showing up in your sales conversations, whatever showing up in like your content, it's a reflection of where you're at. And I mean, it's why I love being in my business as much as I do. It's such a playground. It's a chemistry lab, right? It's a place to learn about yourself and fall in love with who you are. Like business is such a beautiful tool that way. So before we shift into Heidi's Big Five, I do want you to share, how can people work with you? And I know you've got a cool, exciting thing coming up for around the holidays. Like, can you share it all? Because I know people are going to be like, oh my God, how can I work with Laura? And I'm going to here it is.
Well, here's the fun thing. So I am in a wonderful business partnership with my beloved client, colleague, friend, collaborator. We shared all the clients, all the things, and we decided to become more official who knows about time, amount of time ago.
We just say recently in my house because I don't know.
In the distant past, or the recent past. So we have something called the Sold Sisters. It's the soldsisters.com. Sold is SOULD because it's taking the soul and sales and we blend them. And so if you go to the soldsisters.com, you get to this beautiful page that lets you know all of the ways to connect with us. We show up in our Facebook group. We do lots of free content because we want to make sure people get to know us, understand if we're a fit or not, and also get some great resources. We have programs, we have products. One of our biggest things that we're really just champions of is our circle. So the Sold Circle is one of the most powerful things we've put together. It's really for women who want to move into a different relationship with how they do their business. Instead of hustle and launching, we show you how to create from a place of a framework we call our Sold Circle, which is to speak to your ideal clients, like what you're saying, how you're marketing, how you connect with them. We teach you how to sell from a place of soul and love and connection. We tell you how to serve. And when we say service, what we mean is your offers, how you deliver them, how you step up into the best version of you, how you lead your team, how you, just like Heidi, really connects on a deeper level about leadership. We want to show you how to be that. And soul, and what we mean is really sourcing from yourself. Yes. This is again why, Heidi, I love how you teaching lead from within. When you are outside running around looking for an answer, you are like literally pushing yourself away from what you want. When you source from inside, when you can go to your soul's desire, your soul connected offers, the way that you show up, People are magnetized to you. So we love to blend soul and strategy, managing your energy and making a lot of money. So that's how to come hang with us. We talk with you on sales calls. We do lots of workshops, both paid and free. We want people to have a way to come and see, because once you get into our circle and into our energy, you want to stay inside.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I'll have all of that in the show notes as well, all the ways you can connect with the Soul Sisters. And I mean, it really speaks to the power of dynamic women leading from within in my world, where it's like when you are sourced that way, it becomes the win-win-win. It's a win for you and Amber. It's a win for the group. And that is a win for the world. And it sounds cheesy and whatever, but the cheesy stuff is often true. Like that's how you change the world.
Literally.
And this ride ends, right? Like we don't have unlimited time. Like if not now, when are you going to do this stuff? Right?
Yeah.
So, okay. So we're going to end with Heidi's Big Five. Are you ready?
I'm very ready. Go.
Okay. So first question is just to complete this sentence of leadership is
phenomenal. I was like, why am I going to say that? I love being a leader. I actually lead so much. I have a hard time sitting back. So I think leadership is key.
Leadership is phenomenal. Isn't it weird? Like when you get asked a question like that, and you're like, I don't know what you just got spoken. That's what happened.
That is.
But leadership is, when it's phenomenal, it does create phenomenon. Like when when women claim their leadership, phenomenon is the result. Don't you think?
It's everything. It's also like I'm in command. If I want something, I go get it. That's what leadership really represents for me. It's that like, and leaders, like sometimes we have to do things that are hard or challenging. They might not be what everybody else thinks is hard and challenging, but we're willing to do those things that other people are not willing to do. So we get what we desire.
And being willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do, for me, is like, it's a badass factor. It's like, I am willing to look in those crevices. I'm willing to do the shadow work. I'm willing to really wrestle, but I enjoy that as well. Like I do. I love it. Okay. So this one is kind of hard for women at times because we read a lot, but what is the most recent life-changing book that you've read or listened?
Okay, so Amanda Gorman is a queen. Change things. My husband bought it for me on Audible, and I listened to it. And why I love her is I love her youth. I love her spirit. She actually represents, being American has been a challenging thing for me to like come to terms with, like what it means for me and what I've been seeing in our world. And she represents so much hope for me and what can come next. So Amanda Gorman, Change Things. It's like a 3-minute small book. Get it for your kids, but get it for yourself. It is powerful. And I listen to her when I need a moment of recentering to power.
I have like goosebumps on goosebumps. So that's a match for me. Thank you. I love that. I never know what people are going to say, and no one said the same thing yet. So thank you for that addition. I think I know this about you, but are you a night owl or an early bird?
I'm an early bird. Our household, like my son slept until 5:30 and we were like, yes. And it's funny because I used to be like a night owl. And what I actually understand was I wasn't listening to my own natural rhythms. And now like we all wake up usually around the 6 o'clock hours when we're getting out of bed. And that precious space between 6 and 10 is when I sit down to do work. Those hours are where I connect to myself. I connect to my husband. I get our kiddo off to school. We walk the pups. I get a shower. I get myself all the way centered so that I can create so much and give so much. That's like critical time for me.
I love it. Me too. I know the answer and I want your definition. Do you believe in magic?
Oh, yes.
What's your definition?
Okay. So magic is for me, abracadabra, as I speak, I create. It means I know it's one
Did
of
you
those
feel
where
that was like a shudder that was not, I couldn't help it.
But what I love about that is that it makes things more fun, more enjoyable, and lifts my energy up. And your energy is everything. So I connect to magic for me. Like I've got some tarot cards. I'm super woo. I've got tarot cards on my desk. I've got crystals over here. I don't always lead with everything to that, but what it means is I understand that acknowledge play and excitement and joy in what I'm doing. That's magic. I also know that there's really no such thing as coincidences. I have moments of deeply paying attention when there is synchronicity. And for me, that's what magic is.
Love that. I had it reframed for me that coinciding is a mathematical term of where to connect. And it's like we use coincidence as chance, but coincidence is a mathematical, like on the matrix point. And I'm like, I'm a philosophy geek. I'll geek out on coincidence and synchronicity all day long. Okay, so final question is, when women listen to this and they're going to like tell friends about it, what do you want the legacy of our conversation to be?
Ask for more. Like really be in a space, ask yourself for more. And what I mean by that is your highest and best you. People think that it means doing more, hustling more. More often than not, what we would classically call resting time is what gives me more. My business partner, Amber, and I talk about how to use your intuition to activate aligned actions. Because when you take aligned actions, you get better results. We always talk about like, the other day I was not feeling it, did not want to write this email, did not feel like sending it. I could have forced myself and it wouldn't work. We had an event that we were doing where we were leading up with all this stuff and it seemed like everything went off kilter and stuff wasn't working. And I just went and calmed myself. I soothed, I did some stuff that I needed to do. And I had an inspired idea. I wrote an email and we put almost 100 people into an event with one email. And the reason why was I listened to my inner self.
Yes.
I led from within. I led from within. I followed my energy. When I'm not feeling it, I don't do it. When I am feeling it, I don't hesitate. I lead from that space. And then when you take those kind of actions, the reward happens when you are in the decision has been made energy. Like go ask for more of yourself, step your prices up. Like what you are charging, there is somebody out there who's charging more and charging less, and I don't care. But what I care about is that you receive what you need, and that is actually of service to your ideal clients too.
I love that. We just had this reframe inside one of my custom clients, and then it showed up in our group of more isn't about being more than you already are. It's being more of who you already are, where it's taking up that inner space. I feel like I have bloomed inside of myself, right? Like my business is a place to bloom where I am taking up more space. But oftentimes what happens is I have to go to the sun first and like, oh, you're still shining. Okay. Yes, I can see you out there, and you bloom towards it. Right. But that isn't being more than you are. It's being more of who you already are. And that is plenty. We talk about plenty in our group all the time because enough is never enough. But plenty is that sweet spot. Oh my God, I could talk to you.
We have to do this for all times, for always. And ladies, you need to come join in our conversation. I always like when there's more. This is phenomenal. Thank you, Heidi, so much for letting us have this conversation in public.
I just appreciate you. And you know that I'm no BS. I know you're no BS. And I'm like super intentional about who I bring here. I'm exclusive in a good way, I think. But I really do. I know your time is precious. And I appreciate you investing in Strategies with Soul and in me, right? And like being in shared space with you is always a joy. I really mean that. So thank you, honey, for real. I know.
Why aren't we in person?
I know. So sit tight just for a second. We'll put a bow on this and I'll be right there. So friends, I know this conversation is going to land. I know when you embody, that's really what we've been talking about. When you embody sales as a source of love, when you're sourcing from within, when you're getting massive amounts of support from incredible women, your life first and foremost changes, and those that you impact, their lives change as well. So go check out Laura, go check out, is it The Sold Sisters or just Sold Sisters?
Sold Sisters.
The Sold Sisters, SOULD. strategist.com. I'll have all of the links in the show notes. I appreciate you investing your time here on Strategies with Soul, and I'll see you next week. Be well.